lift some weights and stuff.
Okay, hey, that's an operative phrase for our next guest. Joining us now, Jordan Pendleton, former BYU standout linebacker turned personal trainer, a guy that a lot of BYU players, current and former, are going to help them go next level with their training to play football at the next level. Welcome back to Studio B, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
You barely fit behind this desk, man.
Yeah, it's a little snug, but we're good. A little snug.
Hey, it was fun to watch a number of guys that you have personally trained at BYU's Pro Day, namely Andrew Eide and then the Juergens twins, Mitch and Garrett. From your perspective, how did things go for them trying to impress those pro scouts?
It went really well. Andrew Eide, someone who went in, this draft class, the offensive line is probably the weakest it's been in a while. And so for him, putting up big numbers at Pro Day was going to be very important for him. And he tested top 5 in every single category in the nation, in the country. And so that really helped him. For him, he's newer. He was newer at offensive tackle this year. So scouts are looking at him for it's more potential than, what his performance was last year, knowing that he's still new at the position. And so, he started transitioning to play center and guard, which I think is a more natural fit for him. And, he absolutely killed it at the Pro Day. The Juergens twins did really good as well. For me, I think Mitchell was one of the most underrated players on BYU. He came up with tons of good big-time plays.
He was clutch, right?
He's super clutch. I mean, if it was third down and you need someone to go to that was going to make a clutch catch, it was Mitch. And, pound for pound, those two are some of the strongest guys I've ever trained. I mean, Garrett put up 21 on the bench, and there wasn't another receiver in the country that there was maybe one that put up 20, and it's like some 6'3", 220-pound dude, and
right.
He's 185 pounds putting up 21, and so, super strong. Mitch with the 37-inch vertical, I think, proved that,
wow.
He has the athleticism to go along with it, and, it helps to have teams like the Patriots right now who are utilizing guys like Edelman, Amendola, some of the Cowboys with Beasley, some of these slot receivers that are super tough to cover. You put a linebacker on them, they're too quick, they're too small. You put a corner on them, and obviously they're strong as well, so they can. It's a mismatch for anyone, and so I think that is helping guys like the Juergens get noticed and get looked at more.
Speaking of speed, by the way, this just happened about 6 minutes ago. Tatenda Tsumba, who is an Olympian at BYU for Zimbabwe, he just ran a non-win aided 10:19 in the 100, 6th all-time BYU. That just happened. Speaking of speed,
yeah,
that's awesome.
That's pretty fast.
So you've helped these guys in these drills. Help us understand what it takes to not only train these guys for these drills, but how those drills translate to football and why that matters so much to scouts.
Yeah, it's funny. It's kind of a controversial topic because some of these drills really, at the end of the day, don't apply to football whatsoever. I mean, you look at Jamal Williams, who was at BYU's Pro Day. Now, he didn't have the craziest numbers, right? I mean, not that you would expect from a big, explosive running back, but you watch him on tape and on film, and it really doesn't matter what his numbers are. And so for this testing, it's more about guys who are borderline guys who they need to go and show. I mean, let's face it, if you got a receiver at BYU and you got a receiver at another school and they have equal talent, it's easy for a scout to say, all right, well, who's faster? Because we'll take that guy.
Yeah.
So the measurables at Pro Day are important because it gives scouts an easier way to, base, their evaluation off of these athletes. And so, I think most importantly too, per position, depending on what drills they're running, some are more important than others. Like the bench press, not important. You see Taysom Hill running right there. We don't really care how much Taysom can bench. He's a quarterback. But is he good on the 3-cone and the shuttle? Can he move in the pocket? Can he move, side to side, change direction? Is he explosive? So, some of these tests matters more for certain positions than others. But it's just a good way to showcase your skills, showcase your talent, and help you raise your stock in the draft and potentially get drafted. And if not, hopefully get picked up as a free agent and get a chance at the next level.
How reliable are the numbers that come out of a given pro day at any individual school?
This is a hard topic for me because, you know, I wish they would do all laser time, because what happens is you get some 70-year-old scout that's there working the
shaky
stopwatch
hand.
with the shaky hands. You know, he needs a little bit more coffee in his, or should I say, caffeine-free Diet Coke, right?
You have plenty of that around here.
Okay.
Yeah.
To get his hand working a little bit faster. But no, it's frustrating. You know, you got some like my guys, for instance, on some of their drills, they were 2 to 3/10 of a second slower at pro day.
And that's a big deal.
And that's a huge deal. It's the difference between being elite and just getting a decent number. And it might be the difference of maybe, you know, a foot, but that time has, I mean, it's invaluable, you know, it's so valuable. And so, you know, it kind of sucks. I wish we would go all laser time, because depending on who the scout is and you know, if you stop it 1/10 of a second slower or faster for that matter, it can completely mess up your time. And so I think, you know, I'll just, for instance, Mitch Matthews was in training with us too. The Juergens brothers were actually quicker than him on the 3-cone and the shuttle throughout our entire 3 months of training. Mitch went and did his combine, and he did, it was all laser time. He got faster on his 3-cone and shuttle than the Juergens twins did at pro day. But there's no way that he hadn't been getting faster than them, you know, 3 months. I mean, the Juergens were, that was their drill.
Consistently faster.
Consistently. Now, he was faster in the 40, the straight ahead, but the shuttle and the 3-cone, the Juergens consistently were better than Mitch the whole time. But they actually ended up getting 0.2 of a second slower than Mitch at pro day. And so I wish there was a better system. You know, it's kind of hard to see these guys train specifically for these drills for 3 months and then not get a time. Now, the things that we all improved on was the stuff that the scouts couldn't control: the vertical jump, the broad jump. You either jump and you hit the pins or you don't.
Right.
So how high you jump, they can't time that. You know, you either jump high or you don't. And all that stuff, we improved tremendously. The bench press, we improved tremendously. And then the 3-cone and shuttle, we still made improvements, but it wasn't as good as it could have been. And a lot of it has to go with, you know, who's working the stopwatch. You know, it's kind of frustrating.
Mitch Matthews worked with you as well, as you mentioned. He just signed with the Vikings. What did that mean for you to kind of help him on that path?
Well, it was a tough path, and I don't think anybody realizes what went into it. You know, Mitch had pulled his hamstring playing with the Cleveland Browns back in November, and they let him go. And so he's been in for 5 months every day doing this. And so, you know, it kind of gets to a point where you're training and you're like, what am I training for at this point? Like, am I going to get picked up? And he had a couple workouts with teams during the process. Like the Packers had flown him out. He went out and worked out with the St. Louis Rams. Nothing had come of it. And so you kind of get to the point where you're like, do I just call it quits and move on and start my next chapter, or do I keep training and try to get noticed? So we hit a tipping point about, I think, mid-January. He had got an invite to the NFL Vet Combine, which they hold in Arizona. It's a combine where your NFL free agents can get invited to. It's an invitation. It's an invitation only. And I said, you know what? I said, if you just sit and train with me and we just sit and train and no one sees you, it's going to be a lot harder for you to get noticed than showing up and running a good time. I said, your times are great right now. Why don't we show up and run an awesome time at this thing? And if scouts are there and if teams are there, they're going to see you. And if they see you, it's going to give you a better chance to get noticed. And so, you know, we started training specifically for the combine, and he was putting up awesome 40 times, and we were getting his other drills down. And so we decided to do it. And, you know, he went up, and I think he had one of the fastest 40 times there. And, you know, 3 days later he got signed.
Wow. And
so the Vikings snagged him up, and so it was kind of awesome. But, you know, it was a long process. We had to get his hamstring healthy again, and you know, after we decided to give it a go, it was full go, and it ended up working out for him. But, you know, 5 months of work to get to that point.
Wow.
So.
Which BYU player, at least that is not Mitch Matthews and trying to get noticed by the NFL for the first time ever, do you think helped themselves the most at this last pro day?
Yeah, I would say Nakua for sure. Because he was such a big time playmaker. He was always in the right spots at the right time. Obviously, we knew how many interceptions he would make. It seemed like he had one every single game, if not two every single game. But I never realized how explosive he was. Like, I kind of compared him to Andrew Rich, where Andrew Rich made so many plays. He was such a great safety for us. But, it's not like he was a cruiser, right? I mean, he may have ran like a 4.7 or 4.6 something 40-yard dash. So when I saw Kai's numbers and, what he posted up at Pro Day, he blew me away because I didn't know he was jumping that high and I didn't know he could run that fast. And so I think that as a safety and the amount of plays he made and explosive plays he made, there's him getting up right there. I think it helped him tremendously because of what a good playmaker he is.
Jordan, it's been great to talk to you, man. You brought up the point that it had been almost 2 years since you've been in here, so
Yeah.
we won't make that mistake again.
Yeah, let's bring you in a little sooner. Jeez.
Tell me about it. Goodness sakes.
Not going to say no to those arms. Jordan, we appreciate the insight and great work with what you're doing with these players.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Jordan.
Thank you, guys.